night was unusually quiet. Even the crickets had fallen silent. In the heart of Umekele village, the elders gathered under the Iroko tree, their faces lit by the flickering flame of the sacred torch. Then the oldest among them, Elder Mazi Duro, rose to speak, his voice trembling like dry leaves in harmattan wind. A great evil had touched our soil, he said. The villagers leaned in, eyes wide. Ebere, the daughter of Nneka, had not returned from the stream. Gasps erupted. Mothers clutched their children. Men stood still, glancing at one another. Fear dipped in their eyes. Ebere, the songbird of Umuekele, was more than a girl. She was joy wrapped in the body, a laughter that healed, a presence that made old men smile again. She was the sun after a long rain, and now she was gone. But in that crowd, someone knew more than they were letting on. Obianuju stood at the edge of the gathering, her wrapper tightly tied around her chest. Eyes filled with tears, but not the kind that came from sorrow. No, hers were the tears of guilt. Long before the news of Ebere's disappearance, Obianuju and Ebere were like two halves of a calabash, born in the same month, raised in the same compound, and fetch water together, roasting maize by the fire, and dance at the same moonlight festival. But Ebere had something Obianuju didn't like. She was the girl people waited to hear sing at the New Yam festival, the girl whose hair always shone like a woven slick, whose voice made even the bird hush. And when she smiled, you could feel it in your bones. Obianuju watched it all. She smiled too, but deep inside, a shadow was growing. Everything changed when the king's only son, Prince Ifeanyi, returned from the capital. He was tall, with eyes like the moonlight and the gait of a lion. The entire village buzzed like restless bees. The prince was looking for a wife. He sat in the village square that day, watching the maidens dance. But when Ebere stepped forward, barefoot, her anklets giggling like tiny bells, the prince forgot to blink. "She is the one," he said. Word spread fast. The elders of the royal family brought wine and gifts. The king himself praised Ebere's parents. Obianuju watched all this from her mother's kitchen. Her fist clenched around the pistol. "She took everything," she muttered. That night, she couldn't sleep. The voices in her head were louder than the night silence. It was her friend who had stolen the prince, a friend who would be queen. And what would she be? The girl who clapped in the background? No, not anymore. She remembered the whispered she once heard, the name of an old woman who lived in the mangrove forest. They said she wasn't quite human. She could make wishes come true for a price. Before dawn, Obianuju set out, her face veiled and footsteps silent. When she arrived at the old woman's hut, the door creaked open on its own. Inside, the hair smelled of herbs and secrets. "I know why you've come," the old woman said without turning. "I want her gone," Obianuju said, her voice barely audible. "There is no joy in stealing another's light. the old woman warned. But if you must feed her soul to the river. Obianuju hesitated, but only for a second. She nodded. The old woman handed her a small gog with red markings. Break it into her bathing water, and before the next moon, she will belong to the river. And so she did. The next morning, a bearer went to the stream to bathe, humming as usual. She never returned. They searched, they cried, they fasted, but there was no trace. Just her wrapper caught on a low branch, fluttering in the breeze. Obianuju cried with others, but inside she felt victorious. The village mourned. The prince mourned more. For days, he sat alone by the riverbank, calling her name like a prayer. Eventually, the elders approached him. "You must move on," they said. And they suggested Obianuju. She accepted the proposal with a tearful smile and a heart full of secrets. But what she didn't know was that the river does not keep what does not belong to it. 1 week to the wedding, strange things began to happen. The stream turned black. Children claimed to hear laughter in the water. A baby was born with a berry's birthmark. Chickens refused to cross the path to the palace. And then, on the night of Obianuju's wine-carrying ceremony, it happened. As drum beats and lantern danced in the wind, the scream pierced the air. At the foot of the stream, soaked and shivering, stood a berry, alive, her skin pale, but it was her. The villagers rushed to her. Speechless, the prince ran to her, tears in his eyes. But Ebere said nothing. She only turned and pointed at Obianuju. "She is the reason," she whispered. Gasps, silence, and shouts. Obianuju tried to run, but the wind fought her. The trees bent against her. The ancestors had risen. The village elders gathered. "You have called darkness upon our land," they said, "and for that you will walk the earth with your shame." She was banished, never to return, cursed to wander until she confessed with her dying breath. The prince never married again. He built a shrine by the river, where Ebere prayed every morning, her voice still carrying that melody that once made even birds listen. And the villagers, they still whisper the story. Be careful of the friend who smiles with her teeth but cries with her heart. Thanks for staying to the end of the story. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing African folk tales like this. See you in my next story. Bye-bye.